Now, moving on to Louise. Louise, tell me, when you opened your post on Friday morning, did you have any kind of inkling that what you saw in there was going to make both you and your husband cry?
No, none whatsoever. I was completely gobsmacked. It came out of left field, never expected it. What happened to us was we opened a letter from my daughter's day service. She's an adult with an intellectual disability, and she's a very happy client of Sunbeam House Services in Bray, and she goes off on her wee bus every morning at 8:10. She loves it so much. She queues up on a Saturday and a Sunday as well until we can persuade her that it's actually a weekend. And we got a letter saying that forthwith the bus was cancelled. Basically, we got the letter on Friday and it was saying the next Friday there will be no more buses. And I have never been more shocked in my life.
How hard is it going to be for you to try and arrange alternative transport?
Well, what my daughter needs is something really reliable and really safe. She's not verbal. She needs somewhere where everybody who there is on the service has been guard vetted. She needs security. She needs reliability. I don't think I can produce that in a week, and I don't think I can pay for it even if I can produce it. And my problem is that, our whole family, it's like a house of cards. Somebody's pulled out the bottom. She goes off on her bus at 8:10. I have the quickest shower in the world, and I'm up the road at my job at 8:30. So I'm not able to actually bring her. And it's the same pretty much with every family. Like, nobody can just sort of completely change their life in a week.
And what about the bigger picture stuff here? You're obviously racing out the door to work to be there for 8:30. Are the family finances now arranged in such a way that you have no choice but to work?
Well, absolutely. Whatever goes into the bank doesn't, get too comfortable there. It's straight back out again.
Yeah.
We have 5 children, and my husband and myself are lucky enough both to be working. But everything that we earn gets spent on the family. We don't have savings. We don't have, a fancy lifestyle or anything like that. I need to work. And besides altogether from needing to work, I believe I have the right to work.
No question about that. Tell me more about Florence and the extent of her disabilities.
Well, Florence would have what's described as a moderate intellectual disability. She's the nicest kid in the world. She's really, really lovely, but she's basically like 22 going on 2. She doesn't have very much speech. She has a fair amount of gesture and natural sign and stuff like that, and people who know her well can have a sort of a conversation with her. But she's not capable of, she's not a child you could leave unsupervised even in the garden. You'd have to be
and what
on
about
her
getting
case
lifts
the whole
with
time.
What about getting lifts with neighbours? I mean, if neighbour A picked her up one day and I picked her up the next day, would she be
I would run out of
uncomfortable?
neighbours after a week because Florence, while she's a delight, can sometimes want to get your attention, and the way she might do that would be to pull your hair, put her hands over your eyes, pull the gear stick. Now, with family members, it's not so much. Because we've kind of got her fairly rigidly trained and we can see out of the corner of her eye when she's about to do something. But, somebody who isn't experienced with her and somebody who isn't a trained escort, I don't think could manage. And you'd be putting people in danger. Like, my parents would be more than happy to do it. But am I going to ask my 86-year-old father to get out of his bed at 7:30 in the morning to bring my child to her day service when she might just put her hands over her eyes and kill the 3 of them? I don't think so.
So there's no doubt that you need a professional to do this. I know quite a lot, actually, incidentally, about Sunbeam House and what they provide and the brilliant services there and how much the people who go there appreciate them.
Oh, we appreciate them so much. They're lovely.
But with the best will in the world, there's no point in having the best service, excuse me, in the world unless you can get there.
Unless you can access it, exactly. In sort of one moment of kind of grim humour, I was saying to my husband, it's like they've sent the helicopter out and then they say to the fella, holding on to the life raft, well, I hope now you've got your ladder because we had to get rid of the ladder, with the cutbacks. But if you can lep up to the helicopter, you're saved. That's exactly the situation we're in.
Does Florence have brothers and sisters?
She does. She's one of 5. She's the second child of 5.
And how is all of this on them? How does it impact on them?
Well, she's not the easiest sibling in the world to have, I don't think. You know, I think having a special needs person in your family, there's not just one disabled person, there's a disabled family. And everybody has to learn things that maybe they didn't want to, and they have to grow in ways that maybe they didn't have to. They have to find that, you know, maybe when they're as young as 2 and 3, that when they see their sister coming, they might sometimes have to hide behind a door, you know, just if she's in a hair-pulling humour or whatever. It was hard for my children growing up to have play dates because my daughter could decide she was going to have a bath in the middle of the afternoon and she wouldn't wait till she got to the bathroom to get her clothes off. So things like that were very hard for them growing up. And we love her dearly, and I don't want to, you know, I don't want to be sounding like I'm moaning about my child. She's my child, and nothing in the world would say anything bad about her. But things are hard enough without this rug being pulled out from under us.
Being able for you to return to work after looking after her for a long time has improved your quality of life too.
Oh, immeasurably. You know, I stayed at home with her for 17 years and with the other children. And I was very happy to be able to do that. But it was all a bit sort of hand to mouth and, you know, hoping that Oxfam would have clothes that fitted people and this kind of stuff. And when the chance came for me to get back to my job, I am a teacher, I was delighted to have it, and it has helped, you know, not just financially, but it has helped my self-esteem. It means that I'm allowed to be a grown-up in the world as well and not just somebody's mum.
Because
not
presumably,
just being somebody's mum isn't a great thing.
No, but if you are living this hand-to-mouth existence, I assume that you're worried about, if you were before you went back to work living this hand-to-mouth existence, that you're worried about planning for Florence's long-term future and what's going to happen to her and who's going to look after her when you are gone. And that's something that you can only do if there's money coming into the house.
It is very, very tough. I mean, she's on a housing list at the moment, and you know, eventually it is my hope that she will be in some sort of social sheltered housing. Again, it's the sort of thing that no ordinary family could possibly hope to finance out of their own resources.
But
it's just absolutely impossible. So what I have always trusted in up until now is that we're a society that has decided we're not going to leave people like my Florence behind. You know, that not every family gets to have a special needs kid. So therefore, all the other families, through their taxes and through the government that they elect, have decided to support. And like part of that support is special education, it's day services, it's the transport. If we decide as a society, well, actually, we're not going to do that now. We're going to take a meat cleaver to it, and we're not going to pay for that anymore because we don't have the money. It's just giving the message that, you know, let the devil take the hindmost. Because people by themselves can't do it. It's too big for one family.
Let the devil take the hindmost. John Hannigan is the Managing Director of Sunbeam House Services. He joins us on the line now. John, I gather that the way that this has been presented to you is that your choice is what you cut, not whether you can cut or not.
That's right. Good afternoon, Philip, and good afternoon, Louise. I have met Louise, and I know Florence very well, so this is...
One scene never forgotten.
No, she is definitely a character. She's a great character. Philip, you're absolutely right. It's not if or when. We already have lost the money from our budget, from HSE cuts, and it happened just over a week ago. And that's why there's such haste in the actions we're taking, unfortunate actions that we're taking, and actions that I understand completely.
Why do these cuts come now, though, John? Surely this should have been in your budget at the beginning of the year. Does it arise directly from the revised Haddington Road deal?
It does derive directly from Haddington Road deal. The Haddington Road deal has been, as everybody I think in the country is aware, has been negotiated for quite a period of time. And we got to effectively to the 1st of July, and it was an implementation date of the 1st of July. Prior to that, there's been quite a lot of work done in terms of the elements of the Haddington Road Agreement that were negotiated. There are a very clear formula in terms of what elements apply to different categories of workers, to different people who are earning different levels, different contract hours that are worked, in terms of premia, increments, and all the different elements that are highly calculable. You can actually very clearly work out what it is that the budget's going to be cut by as of the 1st of July. And Sunbeam have been asked over, as have many organisations, not just Sunbeam, to provide information to the HSE in terms of where the cuts would hit, how much they would be, and also the impact it would have in terms of services. Now, we supplied all those calculations back to the HSE. The total that we had anticipated and had planned for and were working towards was a cut of about €77,000. And
was that a figure that they had given to you?
No, it's a figure that we had calculated and worked out and given back to them, in that we had, they have all the information to be able to verify those figures, because we've given them over the previous 3 to 4 months as well. And they arrive out of 4 different areas. The principal ones being cut to the people earning more than 65,000. There's actually very, very few of them in Sunbeam. We employ about 410 people, and it equates to 6 people in total that would, 7 people in total that would have that level of earnings. It also arrived from the increased hours that certain people who are working 37.5 hours would have to work more. So there was an element relating to that. Most of our people already work 39 hours a week, which, as you can imagine, is quite significant in this type of services that we do.
Can I cut across you, John?
Sure,
what is the leap from now? It's from 77,000, but up to how much?
It's up to 189,461. So there's 122,000 more than we were anticipating, which has been levied on us effectively with immediate effect from the HSE.
When did you learn about this?
We learned about this about just over a week ago. A week and a bit ago. In fact, we learned not through being notified, but our head of finance was very diligent in his review of our budgets, as you can imagine, because we already have had 459,000 taken out of our budget this year, well in excess of what was agreed by the government. So we were already trying to cope with some very difficult situations, as you can imagine, and we managed to do that, but without cutting any services, thankfully. But we found out by looking at our system that we were being deducted 189,000 with 4 months left to go in the year. And we have to recover that. We can't make a deficit. We don't have sufficient cash resources.
Okay,
but John, why do you have to actually recover it? You know,
Yeah.
I know you guys have done the best you can with your budget, and you've trimmed and you've shaved and you've manicured and you've all the rest of it. We've got to the stage now of cutting people's arms and legs off. Surely a service can't do that.
Well, the problem we have is that we don't have a choice. The way the organisation is funded, as are most organisations that provide these services, the not-for-profit charity ones like ourselves, is that we draw down each month enough from the HSE to be able to pay the wages and the bills that are outstanding for things like ESB and gas and all that kind of stuff. And we only get that on a monthly basis, so we can only draw that down in a month. And we get it on I think it's the first Wednesday of each month, and we make the payments on the 28th.
So you are living hand to mouth as well, just like Louise described. There is no bank overdraft facility for you to turn to. You just have to stay within budget.
That is absolutely correct. And now what the situation is that money is gone from our budget. We are not allowed to draw any more down. And when we get to December, we haven't recovered those costs, or we haven't actually reduced the organisation costs. We will have no cash to make any payments to anybody, which puts all of the services in danger. One of the things that we've decided to ensure in terms of the service we currently provide is that we will not affect the residential, the day, or the rest service provision at the front line. It means we've had to cut a whole range of other things in the background. And as you can imagine, we've already lost nearly 25% of our budget over the last 5 years from HSE cuts. That this is kind of like the straw that breaks the camel's back.
I know, and one of the staff members said to me that nobody's had any increments in your organisation since 2009.
That's right. We haven't paid increments this, and to be honest, that's the only reason Sunbeam is still running. The goodwill of the staff, in terms of not taking increments, not looking for increments every year since 2009, which is when the first cut started. And the only reason we're continuing operation is because of that goodwill from the staff. So we have been an exemplary organisation. We have managed to get our budgets to break even year after year. We don't have huge amounts of reserves as some organisations may have. Certainly we're not like the private organisations. We don't pay huge salaries.
So long story short, though, since the beginning of the year, you had to cut 459,000. That's the sort of the rock, and then the HSE wedged you in there between that and a hard place, looking for another 122,000. And the first thing, or one of the only things that you can do, it sounds like, is just to have to say bye-bye to the transport services. How many families are availing of them, and what's the saving to you there?
In total, we have, this is happening with 4 months left to go towards the end of the year, which is one of our major concerns and major problems. What we have to act as quickly. There's over 200,000 at the beginning of the year, which is what would be reasonable. We factored that in.
John, you're fading in and out on us there.
Sorry, I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon. Yeah.
No, we're losing John's line. But look, Louise, you see where he's coming from, where he has been placed, and presumably this is because of this €147 million overrun in the health services.
Yeah, no, he's obviously standing at the checkout with no money in his purse. But why have we let that happen? Like, what has happened to Ireland that can happen to the most vulnerable people?
Well, there's a 64,000 or indeed €122,000 question. Louise, what are you going to do?
Oh my God! In between crying, I'm really still very stuck. One of my dear friends has told me she can take up the slack 2 mornings a week to bring Flo. I can collect her in the afternoons, thank God, because I'm off early enough. There will be other people who aren't off early enough. The other 3 days, I'm actually not sure. One of my daughters might be able to bring her down in a taxi and come back home again.
But that's a cost that's going to add up.
It's awful because a lot of people are being kind of bent out of shape, and it's costing a lot of money. And whereas, we probably do have a bit of manicuring that we can do. We might be able to eat a few more lentils and stuff like that. There are families that, if their disability care allowance is gobbled up in transport, they will be choosing between sending their child to the day service and putting a dinner on the table. And I think it's appalling.
That's a pretty profound and stark choice to have to make. Louise, thank you very much for calling us. If there's anybody else from Sunbeam House, or indeed it would seem any other organisation providing these kind of services to people with intellectual disabilities who is now going to find themselves at the sharp end of these cuts, please, you know the numbers. 51551 is the text number, or email joe@rte.ie. Louise, thank you very much, and as well to John Hannigan, who we lost there.